and welcome to this week's edition of the WION-VOA co-production. We're now less than 3 weeks away to the U.S. presidential elections. And in these dying stages of the presidential campaign, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are both trying to reach a relatively small number of voters who say they have still not decided who to support. VOA correspondent Scott Stearns looks at the undecideds in this election. Take a look.
Some Americans are already making their choice for president, with early voting underway in many states. But there remain voters who say they are undecided between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
You know, I just want to see, I want to understand who they are. They haven't really been involved much, and they're new to the entire political climate on both sides. They come from both interesting different backgrounds, and I want to see who they are and how they represent their candidates.
Undecided voters are about 3% of the electorate, according to public opinion polls. John Johnson is a research fellow at Marquette University's law school.
For a lot of voters, they haven't started paying that much attention yet. And so I think when you come up and ask them, that's the answer they might give. Some people also in the Midwest might be reticent to tell you who they'll vote for. So there could be some of that as well.
Targeted campaigning by Harris and Trump is moving some undecided voters, says University of Massachusetts political scientist Tetiche Nteta.
The population of the undecided voter is shrinking, and it shrinks with each day. Most people are going to make up their minds before Election Day, and what's really going to matter is going to be the on-the-ground mobilization of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and in what is likely going to be an extremely close election.
Trump and Harris have different challenges in convincing undecided voters, says Brookings Institution senior fellow Darrell West.
He needs to reassure Americans that, one, he respects the rule of law, that he's not going to be crazy and chaotic if he becomes a president. She, on the other hand, is less experienced. She took positions a few years ago that were much more liberal than the policies that she's espousing now. So she has to reassure voters that it's the Kamala Harris of today that they're going to get as president.
Trump, as the better known of the candidates, has both advantages and disadvantages when it comes to undecided voters, says Johnson.
Donald Trump is a candidate running for the third time for president, so most people have strong opinions about him already. And so of that sliver of people who remain undecided, just a single-digit percentage number of people, both parties are working hard to convince them to vote.
That's because those undecided voters could make the difference in close swing state races that will likely decide who wins. Scott Stearns, VOA News.
VOA's Jessica Stone joins us now with additional reporting. She's live at the White House. Hi, Jessica. Pew Research just came out with a poll painting a picture of these undecided voters. What did we learn, and who are they?
I mean, everybody's trying to get a handle on that very question, right? Because these are the prize for November for both of these campaigns. And according to that poll, just 13% of registered voters are uncertain on who they will support. Out of that, 4% say Harris, 4% say Trump, 3% say leaning towards Harris, 2% leading towards Trump. So there's just that 1% that might be up for grabs there if that's the case. So what are these campaigns doing to attract the undecideds? Well, Trump did edit the Republican Party platform over the summer to moderate the position on abortion, and he and Vance, his vice presidential pick, have definitely given a lot of messaging around the abortion issue because they know it's a motivating issue for voters. And Harris has rolled out policy proposals that target what's called the sandwich generation. These are the Americans who are taking care of aging parents and small children. They have a higher number of undecideds amongst them, and so that's part of what she is trying to target on her end. Susan?
And Jessica, where is the likely place for Trump and Harris to pick up these undecided voters?
Well, it's a place they're spending a lot of time in these waning days of the election. It's the state of Pennsylvania. The Keystone State may also be the key to winning this election. It has the highest number of electoral votes, 19 of all of the swing states. So it is a big prize for either of these campaigns to win. And one focus group analysts are really honing in on takes place in the state of Pennsylvania. This comes from Engage's Sago. It shows that 6 out of 12 voters who supported Trump in 2016, switched to Biden in 2020, are now all in for Harris. The other half, the other 6 out of 12 of that focus group, 2 are for Trump, 4 are leaning Harris, but not locked in for her. So again, these very tiny, narrow margins of political analysts watching how they're going to be either locked in for either candidate. We'll see some of the results in early voting as those are tabulated. Both campaigns, Susan, are combined planning to spend $350 million in the state of Pennsylvania, more than any other state on TV ads alone. So they are just getting bombarded with messaging there.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, Jessica, stay with us, please. The next story is about another important battleground state, that being Nevada. Well, since the U.S. Supreme Court sent back the issue of abortion to the states back in 2022, Democrats have mobilized to protect abortion rights, while Republicans have worked to restrict the procedure on religious and moral grounds. The issue is motivating voters to go to the polls this election year. VOA's congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson has more from the U.S. state of Nevada.
This is the next important step for Nevada to protect reproductive freedom and particularly our abortion rights in this state.
Voters here in Nevada aren't just deciding between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris for president. They're also voting on question 6.
And we hope we vote yes on 6. Thank you.
Laura Campbell is going door to door, telling people why she thinks a yes vote on question 6 is so important.
Abortion access actually saved my life more than once, and I just think it's important that after Roe v. Wade was overturned, that the state protects us.
But at an anniversary celebration for First Choice Pregnancy Services, a religious nonprofit providing alternatives to abortions, people like Deborah Costello are worried that question 6 will pass.
The fight could seem overwhelming. Millions and millions of dollars in our state supporting the abortion industry.
Nevadans already voted in 1990 to make abortion legal up to 24 weeks. But Democrats fear a second Trump presidency could overturn those rights, even though Trump says the issue should be left for each state to decide. If question 6 passes, the existing protections would become part of the state's constitution, making them even more difficult to remove.
We've seen lives are being lost across, 22 states have abortion bans, and we don't want that to happen in Nevada.
Jessica Ponce de Leon is a first-time U.S. voter. She planned to vote yes on question 6 and for Kamala Harris even before Campbell knocked on her door.
I don't think that the government should have any say over women's bodies or any of that. I definitely feel like women should have total control over their body.
Nevada is one of 10 states this election year to give voters the choice to decide how and when abortion should be legal. In past election years, putting that issue on the ballot has boosted voter turnout and benefited Democratic candidates up and down the ticket. Christiane Mersch, a Brazilian immigrant who got pregnant in an abusive relationship and chose to keep her baby, is a board member of Nevada Right to Life.
Without life, there's no liberty, there's no other rights. If you don't respect life, there's going to be racism, human trafficking, and I just feel that we're disposable right now.
While the issue is motivating young voters, first-time voter Emily Costello says minds can be changed, and not all young voters will vote for Democrats.
If you can visually see how destructive that is to just a single human being, that'll change your mind instantly.
A nationwide survey released this week by independent health polling source KFF says a growing number of women cite abortion rights as their top issue since Kamala Harris became the Democratic nominee for president.
Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Las Vegas, Nevada.
VOA's Jessica Stone is still with us. Jessica, what more do we know about the impact of the overturn of Roe v. Wade on abortion access in the United States?
Well, since Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022, 14 states have banned abortions in some part of the pregnancy with some exceptions, and 10 states are now trying to preserve abortion access in these referendums that Catherine reported on from Nevada. Two of them are so-called swing states. You saw Nevada there. The other is Arizona. And the Midwestern state of Nebraska is actually carrying two different ballot initiatives, one that would preserve rights, one that would limit rights. And so that could very well get additional turnout as well. Susan?
And do political observers expect this to increase turnout for the presidential election, maybe get some undecided voters off the sidelines?
Yeah, that's certainly the goal, political analysts say, and we have some polling to back that up. A Gallup poll back in May showed that 2 out of 3 Americans support abortion rights, 32% of them planning to support a candidate that supports abortion rights. And a survey of 678, which is a small set of female voters in September, shows more of them are concerned about abortion rights since the spring than they are now than they were back then. 2/3 now believe that the presidential election could impact abortion rights for women across the country. But at the same time, pollsters also say they're seeing a split in sentiment. They're seeing people of both parties support the ballot initiatives on abortion rights and not necessarily translating over to the Democratic candidate for a pro-abortion platform. Veteran Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha said this to NBC News this week. He said he has always seen ballot issues outperform actual candidates. So we'll again have to see if this does more to elevate Harris's campaign, which is what pollsters are very interested in seeing. It could get more people to the polls, but will that translate into Democratic candidates who support abortion rights getting these voters' vote? That remains to be seen. Back to you.
All right, we'll be watching very closely. And New York is actually voting on Prop 1 November 5th. Abortion is part of that as well, yes, despite being a blue state. Right. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, and I hope you have a lovely weekend. Thanks.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.